It's that time of the month again. Patreon payments for the end of May, start of June have just started processing. I just wanted to take the opportunity to give a massive, massive thank you to everybody who supports the channel over on Patreon at patreon.com/Lollujo. It does make a huge difference. It is one of the main things that's allowing me to start doing this full time from July, and it is massively, massively appreciated. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Hello and welcome to Season 21, Part 2 of Non-League to Legend. I'm Kev, and coming up on today's episode, we're away against Fulham in the Premier League and then at home against Dinamo Zagreb in the Champions League. Since you were last with me, form's been a little bit iffy. We lost away to Hull in the Premier League. We only drew, I say these are only draws. We drew away against dominant European superpower Dortmund in the Champions League. That's fine. We drew home against Man United in the Premier League. Not so fine, because they are having a bit of a resurgence to start this season off, but they're a team we would expect to be beating at this point. But we have knocked Liverpool out of the EFL Cup with a reserve-ish team. We don't have a particularly large squad. We can't put in a lot of reserve players, but we did have Diaz in goal, Francis, Owusu, Wagner had a game, Liam Wells got a start. So it wasn't first choice. Iribarren enjoying getting 2 early goals against his old club, though. The Premier League is looking a little bit iffy at this stage, though. I know we're only 5 games in and we've got a game in hand over all these teams above us. If we win today against Fulham, which we really should, if we win against Fulham, we move up to level on points with third place Sunderland. But it's not the pushing for the title from the word go kind of start that we were hoping for. So we kind of need to sort ourselves out a little bit. And this is the team that we're going to be playing against Fulham to try and do exactly that. So we're going to stick with Diaz in goal. There's still a lot of debate in the comments after every episode. Who's better, Diaz or Igor? Diaz played well in the EFL Cup. Igor hasn't been particularly impressive in the Premier League, so Diaz gets a nod in the Premier League today. And then a back four of Ribeiro, Eriksson, Aribi and Ndai. Sedman, Medor and Ziyech are our midfield, pretty much our usual midfield, particularly while Fiorentini is being rested. Fiorentini, I guess, comes in for Medor normally. And then definitely our first choice front three of Oscar, in behind Vendrig and Iribarren. This should be a team capable of absolutely tearing Fulham apart, but for whatever reason, we're not really clicking so far this season, which is odd because you would think with the players, we've got the squad from last year. Yes, we've let a few of the old heads go, so maybe the likes of Demchenko and Nyhouse and Caetano, they were older, more experienced players, perhaps having them around helped the focus and the morale of the team a little bit. I'm not really sure how that side of FM works, but we've kept the core of the first team starters from last year, brought in 2 world-class players in positions we needed to strengthen, but we don't look as good a team yet. So hopefully it's just going to be a case of the new signings clicking and everyone else getting their form from last season back, and perhaps a few players stepping up to be dressing room leaders who perhaps didn't need to be when we had the older players there. Iribarren was captain in the League Cup, for instance. Perhaps he needs to step up. I know he's only 23, but perhaps it's time for him to take a leadership role as the senior attacking player, although Vendrig is a couple of years older. I would argue as Ballon d'Or winner, Iribarren should be leading from the front with the attacking part of the team, a role that perhaps Demchenko was doing before. We've got a lot of experience in midfield. I don't think we need to worry too much there. At the back, Eriksson's our club captain. He should be organising and leading things back there. So I think we do have the right amount of experience scattered through the team. But here we are, 15 minutes in, away from home against Fulham, and we're losing. So Iribarren, there you go, leading from the front like we asked him to. It's his 8th goal of the season, and hopefully that little blip at the start of today's match will be just that, a little blip. We'll go on, score lots of goals this episode, and all this worry about where the season might be going will become a thing of the past. Maybe. Diaz collects well from that free kick. And we've got the chance to get a little bit of a break on here, but Diaz holds on to it for an awfully long time. Does find Iribarren, but there's no one up supporting him. So I guess that justifies how long Diaz held on to the ball anyway. Oscar and Vendrig very slow to get forward to support Iribarren. And despite it being pinpoint distribution, he isn't able to find a teammate. And we've gone 2-1 down. This, in my mind, we've really, really strengthened the defence. Nyhouse was a bit of a weak link anyway. He was getting on a bit. We got good money for him. Ribeiro was our first choice left back for most of last season anyway. And Uribe is a world-class centre-back who you would expect to be brilliant. 2-2, well done, Ruben Iribarren. Where on earth would we be without that man? But I don't know. We still don't look any more defensively sound than we did before. I acknowledge we probably still need a proper goalkeeper, but couldn't find one. You lot have all got access to the save now from the 20 years in the future video that we did, for goodness sake. If you haven't watched the 20 years in the future video, have a look at it. I've retired my manager, so you can't see things exactly as I see them, but you could always appoint yourself as Spurs manager and have a look at some of the players we've got and get a feel for the kind of player that's out there. And bearing in mind I don't touch the player search screen, I just base stuff on what my scouts find, I can't find a goalkeeper better than what we've got. But neither Igor or Diaz are good enough for a title challenge, I don't think. And it's a massive problem that we've got as a squad. As you can see, attacking wise, we're excellent. That's our left back getting into the penalty area and tucking away across, because why not? 3-3 though, we shouldn't be conceding 3 goals at Fulham at any point ever under any circumstances. Even if we go on to win this game, it's still been a really, really poor performance defensively, no matter how well we've played going forward. Vendrick now in a wide position, tries to find Iribarren, it doesn't quite get there. And Fulham have got the chance to go on the attack again. Our defence, they all need a bit of a slap. Plotnikov is probably sat there on the bench chuckling to himself because he's barely had a look in so far this season. It might be time to try Plotnikov and Uribe and maybe give Eriksen a rest. Iribarren is very much papering over the cracks today with a hat-trick. It's 4-3 now. I wouldn't bet against Fulham scoring again though, because we have been so poor defensively today. But fingers crossed we can push on from here and hold on for the victory. And as you can see, a victory does push us up all the way up to 3rd place because of how good our goal difference is, despite our watery defence. Despite our leaky defence, we do score an absolute ton of goals. Sedman finds Ziyech in quite a little nice pocket of space. Iribarren ran straight into a Fulham player though, and Fulham are on the attack again, and they just drift past Uribe like he wasn't there. We just spent £50 million on that man. And I mean, look at that. It's not even a proper attempt at a tackle. And they find a man spare in the area because Eriksen's across trying to cover for Uribe being useless. And we've now conceded 4 goals against Fulham. And we're putting so much pressure on our forwards by being so inept defensively. Let's get Eriksen off, bring Plotnikov on. Even Joseph Owusu might be thinking, I tell you what, I might get a game here at some point. I don't know if today's the day to necessarily bring him on. Plotnikov alongside Uribe might be a bit of an improvement. Who knows? We'll also bring on Fiorentini in the midfield. We're obviously in a situation now where we need to go and grab another goal. Despite scoring 4 goals away from home, defensively, we've absolutely ruined it for ourselves by making this job much, much harder than it needs to be. We've been clinical in front of goal. We've only had 6 shots on target, 1 clear-cut chance. We've scored 4 goals. Iribarren has really, really made a completely disastrous performance look slightly less disastrous with really, really clinical finishing today. But he's not going to be able to do that he does tend to do that every week. But we can't rely on him doing it week in, week out forevermore. Right, we'll take off Sedman, bring on Burgess. I'm trying to bring Burgess through as a midfield player because I think with Liam Wells in his way, Burgess is never likely to be a first choice striker for us unless we have to sell Iribarren at some point. So he's good in midfield. Let's make him into a midfield player because we don't have as many youngsters coming through in midfield as we do up front. That's poor. Really, really poor. There's work to do here. We're mixing things up in midfield a little bit for Dinamo Zagreb. It was a big call keeping Diaz in goal. That was really poor against Fulham, but we'll give him the nod again today. Igor might be back sooner than expected. But in midfield, Wagner and Fiorentini come in for Ziyech and Medor. And other than that, there's not much in the way of changes we can do anywhere else. Bringing Liam Wells or James Burgess in up front is a big, big shout, especially when we've just scored 4 goals away from home. Plotnikov into the back 4 is a decision that we're going to need to make at some point if we keep leaking goals the way we are. But doing that means either dropping the player we've just spent an absolute ton of money on over the summer, or dropping our captain. Neither of which are particularly easy decisions to make. Although, remembering, of course, we spent as much on Plotnikov a few years ago as we did on Aribi this year. Diaz has just pretty much made my mind up about what to do about the goalkeeper. I mean, what is this? Let's have a look at it in 3D. Oh, wow. I mean, there's only so much you can do as the manager of a football team. Because if you've got a player who does that, I mean, how do you manage against that? I guess the answer is you don't play him in the first place. But Igor isn't the most... He's not... Oh, dearie me. Ribeiro with the cross. Oscar hits the post. Oscar's amazing form from early seasons drifted off just a little bit in recent games, which is a bit of a problem because we need goals so very badly. If we lose to Dinamo Zagreb, we've got another Europa League season ahead of us by the looks of it. Eriksson beats 2 men, then remembers he's a defender and should probably focus on that. And Iribarren's in here, and I mean, that's... I don't know if it's a piece of brilliance from Fiorentini or a lucky break for Iribarren. If we have a look, see what actually happens here. Fiorentini, that's a piece of brilliance. It's just an incredible lofted through ball. Iribarren from a very tight angle. I mean, he's probably the only striker in the world who scores. So let's not put too much credit on Fiorentini there. But goodness me, great ball, great finish. Those two are a bit special together. Iribarren makes it 2-1. And again, the best player in the world is papering over the cracks. 5 goals today's episode so far. What on earth are we going to do if he gets an injury? And bearing in mind, he's quite injury prone. He doesn't seem to get really long-term injuries, which guarantees he's going to break his leg later in this match. But he doesn't tend to get really, really long-term injuries so far. Touch wood. Glad it's a wooden desk now. But he gets lots of little niggling injuries throughout the season. And I don't know if Wells or Burgess are ready. And Vendrig, big question marks over him still. There would be a good shout for if we did lose Iribarren, going through the 4-2-3-1 that we used 2 seasons ago when Vendrig scored like 50 goals playing as a lone striker. Because at least we know he can do that. But then it doesn't give Iribarren a route back into the team when he's fit again. Unless you just swap him straight over for Vendrig, and you have Vendrig scoring a ton of goals playing up front on his own, and his reward for doing that is losing his spot in the team once Iribarren's fit again. And we don't know how Iribarren plays as a lone striker, and we don't even know if we've got wide men who can do it this time around. I guess Oscar could go wide one side, or Tager in the middle. Who goes wide on the other side, though? We haven't got Sir Brian knocking around to fill an extra gap in the squad. We don't have Sedlacek to go out on the right wing like we did before. So we've actually, through a process of supposedly strengthening the squad, we've streamlined it quite a lot to try and help the finances. It hasn't. And left ourselves with very few tactical options. Hopefully this is going to be a sign that we're back now. We're going to absolutely stuff Zagreb and use this as a platform to build on for the rest of the season. But I've said that sentence so many times in recent years. We'll bring Ortega on for Oscar. We're going to bring Wells on for Vendrig. And we're just going to swap those two over. Because Iribarren, we know what he's capable of from support. And Wells just prefers to be the attacking option. So we're happy to let the youngster play in his preferred position. And hopefully grab a goal. I mean, Iribarren's got 2 hat-tricks on this episode. He can drop back to support. And if he doesn't score a 7th goal for the episode, then so be it. Eriksson, out to Sedman. Iribarren does get his 7th goal for the episode. I mean, that's he's a good player, isn't he? Wow. Where on earth would we be without this man? I'm actually quite afraid. Please stay fit and we've got a chance this season. Because 4 goals in a Champions League game is nuts. We're just going to take off Wagner. If we can get hold of him. Take off Wagner. We'll bring on Burgess. Keep giving him game time in midfield. Ziyech doesn't need to come on when we're 4-1 up with 10 minutes to go. He can have a little bit of a rest. Burgess gets a bit more game time in midfield. Everyone's happy. And Dye finds Wells. Wells crosses to Iribarren. I thought that was going to be number 5 for him today. And what would that be? 8 for the episode, which, I mean, that's just getting silly at that point. Ribeiro finds Ericsson, who's really far forward again. Burgess to Iribarren. Ortega can't quite get there. He was in an excellent position to square for Wells, but couldn't quite get a foot on the ball. He was offside anyway. And that's that. 4-1. We're up to second in the group. Dortmund, what are they up to? They've lost to Celtic. Borussia Dortmund, for the second season in a row, as an absolute European superpower, might not make it out of the Champions League group that we're in. We're Dortmund conquerors. Here's a shirt for you. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please make sure you pop a like on there for me. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. And thank you very much for watching.